Hi, Sergio. How are you doing?
Good, Daniel. How are you? Have you been?
I have been amazing. We had a short break now,
Yeah,
and we haven't seen each other for a long time. So, how are you?
pretty good. It's been 2 months,
Two
two
months.
months or
Yeah.
so, I think, more or less.
Wow.
Which is good though, because I feel like there were so many topics that we talked about, back to back to back, and it's always good to kind of reflect on these things, and then there's always more to learn. So,
Oh,
just talking about what have you been focused on since we've last talked? I mean, it'd be really good to know what have you been up to, and what have you learned more in this field that you work as you call yourself as a transformationeer, right?
right, right. Yes. Thank you very much. And that's now our 21st podcast. So, we have already 20 in recorded, 21st now. And with that big break, I think you're going to love what we're going to talk to about. And because I've been coming up with, exactly as you said, with thinking about what we're doing, all that work, how to apply it to a new field where it has more impact.
Yeah.
Okay, and with that, what do you think about this whole situation with new jobs, new skills, going back from home, working from home, and going back to the office, and perhaps even not going back to the office, but opening up your own business. And what are your thoughts on that?
I have a lot of thoughts about that because I mean things have changed since COVID began. There's a huge paradigm shift. There's a huge workforce um, shift, well, in thinking in how things can be done, and productivity can increase or at least stay the same. In a lot of cases there's more information coming out that work life balance from home is both beneficial for the company and for the workers themselves. I think it's really important, at least being in the US, how much how how much the middle class has been suffering for these past couple of decades in terms of wages, and in terms of when you compare it to something like Europe, which has stronger unions. um, just a lot of things that are falling through the cracks here, and it makes me think a lot about the importance of people becoming strong enough for themselves to reach the goals they want. I personally, where you see it a lot here, just a lot of unhappiness that is derived from work. And I think it's important to be able to help people who want to become um be independent, or make more money, or just be more with family. These are all things that are shifting right now, and a lot of questions are being asked, with other people and with themselves, like, how do I want my life to be? And I think about that a lot personally. So um how do you see it? How do you see it changing since
Well, it's definitely a huge shift, and I think we have been mixed up all very good. But I think also in a way where you start reflecting upon your life, and this reflecting, I think, creates that don't want to call it turmoil, but change right now. That people are like, do I leave my job and not? And I think you told me that you had a conversation once with a friend, and you were talking about skills and blockages about going this path. And can you remind me there?
yeah, we were actually, it was just yesterday we were talking about that. Basically, we were just saying that there are two ways of looking. My perspective is that there's just two ways of looking at how you grow in your life. And let's just focus on like career, for example, or some goal you want to attain, something you want to do that's very important to you. Whether it brings money or not is irrelevant, but just a change for the better in your life. And I think this is a simple way of looking at it. There are two variables to look at whenever you want to move forward. The first one that everybody is pretty aware of is your skill set. Your skill set of, you know, I'll give an example. I play guitar. So you want to start playing live. Maybe you're pretty decent, and maybe you know a few chords, but going between chords and stuff, you still sound pretty novice, and you maybe in person you might mess up and it might not sound good. So you're like, oh, maybe I'm not ready yet. And so you don't do it. Maybe you're at a point where you're pretty proficient and you feel comfortable in your skills. And maybe if you go live, you'll still do pretty great. So you go. I think what most people don't think about is the other aspect, which is an emotional aspect. And that is what we call resistance. Sometimes we call it resistance to change. Sometimes you, in the same scenario, what you don't realize is that these two are in play. So you might be new and you might feel pretty dumb about playing, or you might not care what anybody thinks and just go do it anyway. And most people live within these two spectrums. No, I'm sorry. Everybody lives within these two spectrums. They just don't know it. Most people tend to equate their level with how they feel. Some people might be amazing at something and they still feel pretty inadequate, so they don't change because this is so strong. This variable of resistance and emotion is so strong that it doesn't allow them to move forward, even if they want to. And they might not understand why completely. They just know it has like this gravitational pull that keeps them in their life. So in my opinion, it's more rare to find people who are in this field where they don't care. They could be new at cooking, but they don't care. They're going to try to bake the world's biggest cake. Most people are either at level with their skill and I think I'm ready. And so like their anxiety isn't as bad, or they're pretty proficient and they still don't believe in themselves. And that's from internal stuff, and then from the world around them that kind of tells them the same thing they're seeing. So yeah, that's how I see things.
I mean that's beautiful. That's what I always tell my clients, where I tell them, look, you have skills, and that's one thing we look at first. Okay, either it's languages, or it's craftsmanship, or it's knowledge, or whatever the skills is. And then they come across a difficult situation, let's say how to find new clients.
Yeah.
And then they buy a book. And in that book, people, or today they don't buy a book, they buy an online training or online course or whatever. And there you get described, oh, you need to be on TikTok, on Facebook, on whatever, Instagram, and you have to post twice a day, in the morning, in the evening, and you have to be in the comments, and you have to answer people's questions and so on. And that's a strategy. Okay.
Yeah.
And then they try it. And then first they had the skill, then they had the problem with the actual problem with finding clients.
Yeah.
And then they bought the course on how to find new clients. Then they learned new things they need to do.
Yeah.
Creating videos. Let's say that person is an accountant, okay, and is looking for new videos. Usually accountants are very introvert people. And now you tell them to find clients, you need to create a video. And then it's nice. I mean, this person had a comfort zone like this. And now through that book, through that course, that person learns, oh, I need to extend my comfort zone a little bit to create videos.
Yeah.
But instantly you gave that person two problems. Now he has the problem with finding clients and the resistance around finding clients. There's something around it, as you pointed out, and the resistance of creating videos. Because now you need to change from being an introvert and being something in between so that you can put yourself out there like we are doing right now. Yeah. Okay. So with buying that book in hopes of solving the problem, the person created another problem. Okay. Yeah. So the person sees that and then stops reading that book, 50%. Mm-hmm. Two problems. Now, well, perhaps it's not TikTok, not doing videos, but it would be cool if it's just text-based. So he goes out and buys another course on how to do that with Twitter. Okay? Twitter, we just need images sometimes, and you get that from some Pixabay or whatever. And then you just write text. So you don't have to put yourself out there. So it's not such a big hurdle. Okay, you don't have to extend your comfort zone. You don't need the technology, the lighting, the microphone, and so on. You just write texts.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is actually when you're a digital nomad or when you're starting up and you're renting an office space, usually you can get office spaces really cheap in co-working places. Mm-hmm. But if you want to do something where it has to do with less noise, like a video like we are doing right now, you need to rent your own office, perhaps within that office space, but it's more expensive because it's one place, okay? Yeah. So whenever you need silence, it's more expensive, okay? Whenever you do videos, TikToks, it's more expensive. So, okay, so now they buy the second training. And that person then in that second training explains how to get a reach with Twitter texts.
Yeah.
It's easier. The person then starts, okay, put something out there. No reaction. And again, second post, no reaction. Third post, no reaction. Slowly, because there's no reaction. If there would be at least one person perhaps liking it or retweeting it or something like this, would be awesome, but no reaction. Now that person, well, there's a Facebook group. So that second author created a Facebook group, and that person goes into the Facebook group and says, hey, I bought the book, I'm an accountant, and so on. And I don't have reach. Nobody reads my tweets. You have to do it. You have to stay with it. You have to give it half a year at least, and so on. These are the things that come there. The recommendations. So the person says, okay, still don't have clients. I know that I suck doing videos. Okay, I didn't know that before because it was never in my world, but now I know. Okay, and the third thing is, I have to stay with the tweets, and I don't know if it works. And now that person feels a new kind of resistance, because the new kind of resistance is, what if in 1 month I still don't get any retweets or answers or likes or something, or in 2 months? And now I should, because that person in the Facebook group told me that I have to do it half a year. Do I have actually the funds to do that half a year? I need clients now, okay, to be able to live in half a year.
Yeah, I need.
And now that whole thing in the head perhaps explodes, okay? And the explosion perhaps is literally an explosion, but it's an explosion. Too many emotions, too many confusing thoughts, too much going on. And then what happens? Oh, being an accountant is not the thing. In 2022, being an accountant is not good. I need to be a coach. I need to be a coach, coaching coaches, how to coach coaches, and so on. Or I need to be an influencer with fashion, something. And then now is another problem. Okay, first there was missing leads. Then there is now I'm not good enough for Twitter, for TikTok. Then the third one is Twitter takes too long. And now I'm so frustrated that I don't even like what I'm doing. And then comes the awesome thing. I don't know what I should do in life. I'm not good in anything. I don't have skills.
Yeah.
That's basically it. And then what's the next thing? Funds run out and you sell yourself again on a 9 to 5 in a business, because that's the stable thing to do. Yeah. Okay. So this is basically something I have observed with many clients, because they go for coaches, go for trainings and so on. And the trainings don't go where the problem is. They just give strategies. And strategies is great. You need to have a strategy. You need to have a strategy for your life. Okay. I don't know my strategies. I like to live. I like my wife. I like my kids. So that's all kinds of my strategy. Yeah. And then follow that strategy, because if you always change the strategy, you like a flag in the wind. You're always changing. Nobody knows what you stand for. So that's a cool thing. You need to have a strategy. But what you also need is to change your mindset. And you cannot change your mindset with reading books, with attending seminars. You can only change your mindset when you work on your emotions. Because many things, especially the blocking thoughts, these thoughts of what would happen if I tweet on for 2 more months and nobody reads my tweets, okay? What happens if I tweet on for 6 more months and nobody reads my tweets? These kinds of thinking that is blocking you from actually performing, from doing it, from following the strategy, okay? Yeah. They are created out of emotions. Okay, and this is fear. This is fear of losing money, fear of losing time, fear of not being good enough, fear of whatever. And you cannot get rid of a fear by just reading about it.
Yeah.
So, and that is what in my coaching, I call that clarity coaching, what I do with my clients, we not only work with strategy and we work with books and knowledge and so on, but we work with emotions. We have techniques to actually find the blocking emotion, resolve that blocking emotion, check if everything is okay, and then try it out.
Yeah.
And if that works, perfect. If not, we just do that again, because there might be a second or a third emotion blocking you from doing that. And why do I call it clarity? Because in that moment, when you start thinking about what's going to happen in 2 weeks and 3 weeks and 2 months and 6 months and so on, what happens is your focus narrows. And that's an automatic thing that happens. And that's cool, because when you have an accident with your car, you want to have a closed focus. Imagine you have been in your car with your friends talking, chatting about the concert you're going to, and then something happens. Somebody hits you in the back, okay, rear-ends you. Then your focus needs to close. You need to go to the right side, well, possibly in most countries to the right side. Secure the area so no other cars come in, call 911, and then stand outside. Yeah, and all the other things you learned in driving school, what you have to do. And that needs focus, attention. And at that time, you're not thinking about the concert. Okay, you just think about resolving that situation.
Yeah.
And then when you stand outside, when you're waiting for help to arrive, then slowly it opens up your focus. I see that gas station over there. That's cool, because perhaps we can quickly go there and then we do our thing, whatever. So basically you open up again, you gain clarity.
Yeah.
But when you are in an emotional event, when you are in that emergency event, you need your mind to be focused. Great for being when you're in an accident, really bad when you're sitting in front of your computer and you want to create something, whether it's work for your clients or it's a tweet or is a TikTok or whatever. When you have this focus, you can think, okay? Yeah. And that's when people start to stutter and they don't need all these techniques for reading one line, press pause, and then recording, read another line, and then edit all this together, whatever techniques people use, because with that narrow focus, it's not possible. Yeah. But when you know how it's done, when you know that emotions are the actually things that cause the narrowing of the focus, we work with these emotions. Focus opens, you gain clarity again, you can think, and you can even think outside the box, because all that is accessible to you again, and your intuition as well, which is a really cool thing, because when you're like this, there's no intuition, there's just survival. Okay, I need to survive a car crash. But when you open up, there's intuition. There's like, oh, I could actually connect these two clients and they could do that project together and so on. You can't see that when you're just focused on how do I get that invoice out.
Yeah.
So, and that is basically what I do with my clients in the programs that we have developed, that we teach techniques how to know that you are narrowed down. Because if you would go to that person in an accident and ask them, look, are you like focused or how do you have clarity? Are you narrowed down? Don't say, I know exactly what I have to do. Yeah. Okay. They in that moment, they can't reflect upon themselves. But there are techniques to actually notice, not when you're in that kind of emergency situation, but when you're in front of your computer, when you're at work, where you notice if my focus is like this or if it's like this. And when you notice, when you now know, when you train to know, then you go and do that technique. And then the focus opens up. You gain clarity. And when with clarity, you do that work that you do, and also with much more joy, because in the focus, in the stress mode, basically there's no joy. Joy isn't possible because you have to survive. Okay. Yeah. But when you open up, it's like joy is, and then stuff makes fun and is fun. Okay. And and that's what as feedback comes from my clients, that with clarity, with that open vision, with that wide angle vision, basically, the work goes much easier. Yeah, you take decisions which you do not regret. Okay, because you all know possibly that that there's a possibility that you take a decision and 2 weeks later you say, oh, why did I take that decision?
Mm-hmm.
And then you think, it's not my style to think this way, but I still did it. Why? The easy explanation is because you were focused on one thing. You just wanted to avoid A, and that's why you took the decision B. Okay. While when you would have been open, you would say that A and B both are not good decisions, and you would take C because that's from your bottom of your heart what you think is belief in the right thing, but you couldn't see it. You couldn't see C when you're in that situation. Okay. And yeah.
That makes sense. That I feel like also applies to people who are maybe going on diets or trying to lose weight. They always have like some sort of strategy, and you see that a lot. You see that a lot in the US with like hustle culture and this like notion that, all you got to do is just grind it out and work hard. And I think it always leaves out that most people are dealing with a lot of stress and work their 9 to 5. And um, I just feel like emotions are rarely considered as part of the strategy. So,
right. So for stress, right? So what would a good employer do when they know that you are stressed? They would either reduce your work, well, which makes less money. That's not really helpful, but that's one thing they would do. Or they would hire a massage therapist, right? And then somebody comes to your jaw to your desk and massages you. Well, that's a good idea. Better idea would be to do some sports, do some yoga, and so on. And the best idea would be to understand that this stress people are feeling actually is this internal stress they're having because they have to overcome these things that you were saying. Okay? Yeah. My boss told me to run this project, but I'm afraid to run this project. But I'm also afraid of telling my boss and losing my job. So I run this project, and every day I work against my inner resistance, my inner fear for failing that project. And that is exhausting. Okay. When we work together, we just resolve that fear for failing or fear for that project or whatever it is. And then it's just work. Okay. And that's the beautiful thing that and most people don't know about that. But there's a saying which makes you realize a little bit what that is. So there's the saying, a weight is lifted off my shoulders. Okay. Usually you tell a story like, I have been thinking about this and I don't know if I should buy this car, take this job or go on that vacation or whatever. And then something happened and that lifted the weight off my shoulders. And that's actually feeling we can produce with these techniques that the weight is lifted off your shoulders. You feel open again, you feel light, you can calm and peaceful, you can take a decision, and then this decision is rarely thought of again, or you feel like shame that you did that decision or something like this. That's not happening because it's like that C decision. It's like what you really would like to decide. Okay, it still can have some impacts in the future. We're not fortune tellers or something that we can say how the future is going to look like, but we know that this decision is something you're not regretting. Okay, it can still have some negative impacts, but it's like it was a true decision. Many people don't know about it, but if you remember how it felt when once you had that feeling that a weight was lifted off your shoulders, you know how good that feels, and that can be achieved even if the boss gives you a project which is like, oh my God. And then you just later on say, okay, well, it's not my favorite, but I'll just do it.
Yeah. And it is a great feeling. Like having worked with you and having worked through certain like emotional things, it is a really nice feeling. It's like at least the one I felt is like this short kind of like release of something that was once there. And it feels so nice. Like it feels really nice. So
very cool, very cool. So now think about that situation. You were talking with your friend about this and the resistance and skill. Now, if we add into that talk that the resistance, basically is just created because, or it's just there because you would need to overcome an inner emotion you have. So the resistance you feel is just something because there's something inside of you saying, when I go this way, that's going to feel bad. So I don't go this way.
Yeah.
Okay. A good question for that is what for? So what for are you, or for what are you trying not to create TikTok videos? Okay. I don't want to embarrass myself.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. So this embarrassment is that resistance that you're feeling. And behind that embarrassment, there's that emotion. That could be already that emotion of embarrassment, or there could be other emotions behind. We would analyze that in the session, and then simply resolve it. And then it's okay. Yeah, I still don't know how I do it. I don't have the skills because I don't have the experience of creating these TikTok videos. But it's not that resistance. It's not that fear that something can happen doing it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's really difficult to understand that because our minds usually connect the emotion very quickly to that thing. Okay, so you've tried recording your once for TikTok and you felt that emotion, and then you automatically, the mind connects the emotion to that thing you're doing. But when the emotion is gone, it's just the thing you're doing. And that's a little bit weird at the beginning, but once you get the hang of it, it's actually really, really cool.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Good. Okay. Happy.
So are you like focusing more on working with clients that are trying to get through these things, like trying to grow their business, learn a new skill, basically grow themselves in this like career aspect or creative aspect?
Yes. Because I learned that when I work with people who are doing this is people who are active, the world around them changes. Okay, so let's take that accountant again. That accountant has a wife and 2 kids. Okay,
Yeah.
and had that job, and now he has the dream of being self-employed and creating his own company and so on. Before he worked 20 years in the corporate world.
Yeah.
And he wants to work from home. He doesn't want to go back to the office, so that's why he creates or wants to create that company. That person really gets miserable. Now you can imagine that, how miserable when there are just a few clients. You don't know how long the clients are going to be there, and the money doesn't flow. The cash flow is not that great. So wife, kids, feels a little bit miserable. Okay, and then the friends also. Okay, so there's a circle of them and the circle of friends and the friends around the friends, because the friends of them tell other friends they don't know. Oh, we have a friend who's an accountant and he just opened up his own business and he's doing bad. Okay, so there's a chain of people knowing that he's not doing so well and perhaps are discouraged in opening up their own business because they know that this person is really.
That makes sense.
And this is like, I don't know if you know the small world principle. We are all connected through 7 steps. So we know everybody in this world by 7 other people in between. Yeah, that's, I don't know. I read it somewhere.
I know it is 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
It's like 6. That's something. I mean, it's something between 6 and 7.
Yeah,
but anyway, so it's a huge circle. So when we change it, so if we help that person to not have this resistance, to help that person to blossom in their field, then the opposite effects happens. They know, and then they are encouraged to do it as well. And then perhaps they ask, how did you do it? And then they say, well, I had my accounting coaching, and I had my entrepreneur coaching, and I had my mindset coaching. And that's what you need. The same thing as you need a plumber perhaps, and you need an electrician when you set up a house. You need so you need different people to set up a business as well, but not full time. 1 hour a week or something, and then you basically change the way you feel. You change the way your mind is working. When you change the way you feel, you change the way how your mind is working, and when you change the way your mind is working, you change also your behavior. And then there's a cluster of happy people. And this clusters also connect to other people, and then this spreads. Okay, and then we really grow basically this middle class again, and get rid of this huge corporations. And that's actually something I'm looking forward
Oh, that's
for very
beautiful. Yeah,
much.
that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And going back to what you're saying actually about the 7 steps, I noticed how with people that, because I work at a 9 to 5, and um, I have a lot of resistances as well, but I also have my small business. Um, and one thing I noticed with people working 9 to 5s, even if they're still trying to make it in another section, is that it's like because people close to them are not doing well, or like they quit their job and now they're still not where they thought they would be. The immediate assumption I see in people's heads is like, as they talk, is like, then I can't do it because nobody else in the world is succeeding. It's like they take the people that they know and they project that out into the rest of the world, and that is how the rest of the world works. And it's pretty mind boggling, because if you're able to if you're able to get to that stage or see that perception, you like a great example of this is you just go anywhere, you go to a different city, and you just look at buildings, you look at the infrastructure, and just the infrastructure alone tells you there's so much money that had to be spent on buildings. There's so much, I don't want to say money, there is so much opportunity, there is not as, we live in a world a perception or a mindset of scarcity for the most part.
Yes, very
That's where
good.
you see it.
Very
You
good.
see it with, that's a great example that I think I'm saying is like, people just see what's around them and they think that's how the rest of the world is. Like, oh, everybody I know is working 9 to 5s. That's all the money there is. There's only you know, at least here in the U.S., there's like only $15 minimum wage for everybody. Otherwise, the world would collapse, and that's just not true. But
Well,
that is the
that's so many,
mindset.
yes,
Yeah,
that's so
that's a
much
worldview.
mindset, a limiting mindset there. I
Yeah,
know I know these things. Okay, if I make much money, I take money away from other people and so on. Well, as we discussed before, there's no
yeah,
such thing as little money because the state, the country, or the federal bank are printing money like crazy. That's why we have the inflation. Okay,
yeah,
so but it's actually interesting what you mentioned with scarcity and the projection. When people are now fed up with 9 to 5 and they're quitting the 9 to 5, and then they're not doing that well, then other people see that as negative proof that it doesn't work.
yeah, yeah,
Well, if you have two friends, one is succeeding for whatever reason, perhaps that friend has a huge skill set and little resistance or whatever, or he already worked five years in with a small business on the side, and now he's basically just switching over because he finally figured out how it's going, how it's working.
yeah,
Um, and then if you have these two, usually people would not look at the person where it's working. That's the crazy thing, because that scarcity mindset that you have, that you mentioned. People would look and say, okay, that person is doing well, that's pure luck. Okay, but the normal thing, because that is in balance or in harmony with my scarcity mindset, is
yeah,
that it doesn't work. Okay,
yeah,
and it's not bad, and you can't blame, because that is how we survived. This is
yeah, exactly.
how we survived, and how we lived for ages, for centuries, and that's some a mindset which kept us alive, which made us aware of tigers and lions and wolves before they could attack. When we
Yeah,
always had the negative in mind, when we always expected the negative, we would live longer, and actually we would procreate. Okay,
yeah, of course.
those people in the past who looked at the positive, yeah, they were eaten by the wolves.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so the scarcity mindset and the negative mindset is something which was really healthy
It's an
for humans to
adaptation.
survive, yeah, and now it's difficult. Yeah? It's difficult in that ever-changing world where we have little predators and little something we have to be aware of. Um, to change.
Yeah,
Again, you cannot change your mindset by just thinking you outside. You can't just think you outside your mindset. It's impossible. You just cannot read something and then switch your mindset. You have to know your mindset is something which is created out of your knowledge, your experience, and your emotions. The troubled thing is, because of that mindset, because of your emotions which you had, you're going a certain way, and with that certain way, you're always collecting, reconfirming facts. Yeah, like the fact where I had these two people, they're looking, it didn't work, and that's a fact, and it's stored in my mind, and that's perfect. So when you want to change your mindset, you got to work on your emotions, because on the rest you cannot unlearn. You cannot just go and say, I'll forget that I had two friends and one was doing well, the other one not. No way. It's impossible. Okay. So what's possible is to work on your emotions, and then it doesn't matter anymore. Okay. So then the resistance drops, your mindset changes. You even can change to a mindset away from the scarcity mindset to a neutral, or even to a mindset where you think everything is possible.
Yeah.
But if you think everything is possible, it doesn't mean that you're scared, that you're careless. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
how I feel.
What are you saying?
That's kind of like the state where I'm at.
Okay, cool. Yeah. But it's an optimistic mindset. Everything is possible, but you still can look left and right when you cross the street. Okay. You still take the law about how to drive and how to behave, and then how to not threaten people. You still take that seriously.
Yeah.
It's just a different way of thinking. And the interesting thing is, if we have a glass with that 50% filling, so there's 50% of the glass water in it. And that's just a different way. A scarcity mindset would say the glass is half empty.
Yeah.
An optimist mindset, an abundance mindset would say the glass is half full, because there's still something in it. I still can do something with the water. I can still drink it. I can still use it for painting with my kids or whatever. So there's still something I can do with the water. It's just a different way of perceiving. It doesn't say that actually the glass is now really full. It's just you perceive it differently. And with that perceiving, your actions change. Okay. When they say the glasses are full, say, okay, it's enough. I don't need to go to the fridge. I can stay. Yeah. Okay. If you say the glasses half empty, you say, it's better that I fill it up. You stand up and you trip and you break your ankle and you go to the hospital. Okay. So the scarcity mindset actually creates these situations because you give them a chance.
Right. And your goal is trying to get people to the place where they're happy with the water they have. Or you could even say, like, oh, there's more water out there because there's water here. So there's got to be more water out there.
Yeah, but it's enough. What I have right now, it's half full, and I'm happy in that moment. And then when it's empty, I still can get up, or ask somebody who passes in the kitchen to bring the water or whatever. I still have the possibility to choose my actions. But my inner setup is much lighter, it's much nicer, it's happier, and my behavior changes in a way which is helpful in this environment we're living in right now to grow.
Yeah.
Okay. If we move back into our caves, I don't know. But still, with that optimistic mindset, you will find the berries and you will find the rabbits which you're going to eat quicker.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think that's relevant. I think we've had a lot of talks about trauma, but I think ultimately trauma just shuts you down, and fear and all these emotions, they shut down certain things. So being even if you, I could be wrong, but I just thinking about it, like if you went back to those days and you were not focused on, you were not focused on fear, or you were not focused on survival, you would still have more to pick from. You would still have more options to find solutions, as opposed to the one that just keeps you alive. I think that's where compassion, I think that's where these higher social thinking, higher social skills that humans have, like cooperation, and ultimately the biggest one is cooperation. I think that's where they come from. They come from not being in these states where we see it right now, where we still have a lot of mentality that comes from survival of the fittest. I look out for number one being me. I think those are all survival skills that still apply to a lot to the economic world, because usually that's where we see survival, like getting
That,
money.
but that's automatic,
Yeah,
serious.
yeah, yeah.
So when you have that open mindset, if you have that clarity mindset, you perceive the world more as it is. There's still some things you interpret on your own, but it's more as it is.
Yeah.
If you're used to that closed mindset, okay, so then, and that is for example how you can identify it. The first thing how to identify when I'm with that closed mindset, then I am the center.
Yeah.
Okay, it's incredibly difficult to think how another person feels and thinks. Okay, so I
Yeah.
cannot put myself into that person's position. So that is one aspect, how to identify that you are in that focused, in that narrowed, in that survival mindset. You cannot feel for that other person.
Yeah,
And
that's a
that
good that's a good point.
and actually when you have a boss who you hate, why do you hate that boss? Because he doesn't think how you feel when he gives you that order. Yeah, what to do.
Yeah.
So people in that mindset usually are not liked by the other people because they're selfish, they're egotistical, and they're self-centered and whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you have that open mindset, you can see that. But if that boss comes in and gives you something to do, very possible you also close down and have that self-centered mindset. Why should I do that? Okay. Why doesn't my colleague do it or whatever? So that is basically, yeah, a way to defend myself, yeah, to protect myself in that closed mindset.
Yeah.
So another thing is, if you're in that closed mindset, things have to be a certain way, or they must be a certain way. So these have to, shoulds, and musts are an indicator for a closed mindset.
Yeah.
Okay. So the government has to bail us out. Closed mindset. Why? Okay. When you have that open mindset, you say, why? Yeah. Tell me about it. Let's think about options. And then and we had a chancellor in Germany, and that chancellor said these things are without alternative. It's closed mindset.
Yeah.
Just see that one thing. He doesn't see all these other things.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, if you follow that person, you're screwed because that person just sees himself or herself. Okay. And because he or she is in that closed mindset, they're not thinking about you. They're not thinking about their people who elected them.
Yeah.
So when you get people into that open mindset, cool. Another example, you read the newspaper, okay, the real paper or online or whatever, and you read it and you're like interested. Okay, at first you're open. Oh, I'm really interested in that topic. And then the topic, they talk about stuff that could happen, stuff that is dangerous, that the stock market could crash, that we don't have food on the table, that we within 1 year have like, I don't know, whatever. So my focus goes here because I get afraid. Now, at the end of that article, they say to protect you, you have to buy 2 years worth of preserved food or canned food.
Yeah.
What do?
You buy it.
I'm in that survival mindset, and I take the rest of my money from the bank and buy this stuff.
That's
Okay.
why. Did you guys have that in Germany during COVID, where people were just buying everything from the supermarket?
Yes,
Like
and
there was
all
like no
started.
toilet paper.
Yes, it all started with toilet paper.
Yeah. That's such a weird one.
I hope my kids will read about that in their history books.
Yeah,
So
that's a weird. I don't understand the survival like trauma from toilet paper. Like, I guess it must have been awful before toilet paper.
I know I know plenty of alternatives, but anyway, that's a different topic. So anyway, but that's exactly the focused mindset, okay? The survival mindset, okay?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. You become incredibly easy to manipulate. I just need to create an article, to create a blog in which you read, where I trigger your fear, where I trigger your emotions, and then I suggest something, and you'll do it. More likely than when I tell you there's nothing to fear, everything is fine, but you should buy canned goods. Why? Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no reason. So And that is what's going on the last 2 years, I think, especially with COVID and vaccinations and face masks and all these other things, and now with inflation, with the recession, possible recession. If you just talk about possible recession and you talk about job law, layoffs and so on, then whoop, closed mindset.
Yeah.
So the thing is, now a client works with me, and then we take the same article. We have resolved some of the fear of not having enough to eat and so on.
Yeah.
And that person goes in, oh, interesting article. Huh. Look at that sentence. That sentence is structured in a way to produce fear in other people. Huh. Really interesting. Really interesting. Why did the author, the journalist, do it?
Yeah.
And now, again, as I said, if you can put yourself in the other person's position, then you know you have an open mindset, you have clarity. Okay? And then you say, either within the conference there, the editors' conference, they had to do it, or that person actually is scared. That person actually is scared and therefore writes that article.
Yeah.
Basically triggering everybody else. Okay?
Yeah.
So you think about it, and then you read the suggestions. So you have to buy 2 years worth of canned goods. And you say, is that true? How long do canned goods last? Is it 5 years? Is it 1 year, 2 years? Perhaps I need to research that. And is it really healthy? And can I survive just on canned goods? Or do I need perhaps some vitamins? Or do I need some water perhaps as well? And stuff. So you start to research.
Yeah.
That is the difference between that closed mindset, where you just go and buy, to that open mindset, to that clarity mindset, where you say, let me check. Yeah. Is that truly the path I want to go?
Yeah.
That's so much fun. And that's these moments where you always say you open the eyes. People had their eyes open before, but it feels really like this. That's a world I haven't seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that comes with clarity, and that comes with understanding that clarity basically is blocked by your emotions and not by your thoughts and not by your skills and not by your knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess whenever you think about like improving yourself and you know, outside of the scope of what you're saying makes a lot of sense, because it applies to like not just like, because we started talking about jobs, or just career or skill sets, but just in general,
Mhm.
like because I think you made me think about like when people buy stocks and where people sell stocks, for example.
Yes.
And a lot of times you just read, like especially these past few years with how the markets were, with the housing market, with crypto, with stocks, you would just, people just were panicking and either buying a lot of stuff and things were going crazy, or selling a lot. It was just wild, and that's where I see it apply. I feel like most people in the market don't really research. They just read what somebody did and they just go, "Sounds good." I've done.
Well,
I mean, I'm guilty of it.
exactly. Exactly, that's the thing. Think about you in a position. You are like a funds manager and so on, and you have like millions and millions there. It's truly difficult, for you to, if you get triggered, to process all the true information, because you're triggered. You're like, in that situation, just save my soul, okay?
Yeah.
And it would be much nicer if you, like, in that situation, say, okay, I can save my soul still, but I need to understand now what's happening. It's not like the car accident. With the car accident, you need to get out of the way. But when you're in front of the computer and you have to take a decision, perhaps you have to take the decision within minutes. That might be true, okay? But if you can still think, and if you don't have that fear, like pumping your heart, making you sweat, making you warm, giving you all that sympathetic symptoms, it would be much easier to take that decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense.
So yeah,
Ultimately, it seems like the strategy is, it's important for people to start thinking about emotional understanding and like processing and integrating those things that are, you could call them resistances, but ultimately, they're like feelings that stop you. I think it's important that new models of like growth and mindset um think about emotions as like an important strategy to get to where the goals you
yeah,
want to achieve are at, or who do you
yes,
want to be in your life,
yes,
how you want your life to be. Yeah,
definitely.
I don't think that's talked about enough, or applied enough. You don't find a lot of people who do that. You find a lot of people who tell you about your mindset and all these tools and but ultimately I think that's why people fall short with diets and all those things, because it comes down to emotional stuff that is
Yes,
takes charge. It takes charge more than your conscious will has energy to push through.
So if you want to change the outcome, you have to change the actions. And the actions you're taking have to do with your behavior. The behavior has to do with your mindset. And again, the mindset is the same thing. The mindset is created out of your skills, out of your experience, and out of what you're experienced emotional wise.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you really want to go to the root and want to change your personal outcome, you have to go back the whole way, go to that emotion. And when that emotion is out of the way, you can have experiences. Yeah, like we had with the job. When you have the skill, the emotions out of the way, you create experiences. And with these new experiences, you change your behavior, you change your actions, and you change the outcome.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's basically it. And yeah, I think you just have to start doing it this way and look at it this way.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%.
Good. So let's stop the podcast number 21 with that. And I'm looking forward to the next episode with you, Sergio.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you very much.
Of course. Thank you.
Okay, bye.